Card number 70 from the 53 Bowman set featuring Clint Courtney, who I always think looks like George Costanza. So if it is card number 70, that must mean it is session number 70 of Card Room Live. So happy to see so many comments already. Just a reminder, guys, this is not a show. This is a hangout for fellow vintage collectors. Sometimes we have guests like tonight, but most of the time, no matter what, we waste time looking at and talking about cardboard, and through it all, we try to make it time well wasted. Good evening to everybody. If you're here with us live, welcome. I'll be looking in the chat here momentarily. If you're listening to this later, you might be going to work, coming home from work, sorting cards, looking at eBay, walking the dog, sitting on the john. You might be wondering if Jesse Think Blue 77 is going to give us an updated tour of his Dodgers museum. Whatever you might be doing, I hope you get something out of it. And if you want to get in touch or have ideas for future sessions, you can email me at bowman53channel@gmail.com. You can also find me at Bowman53_Alex on Instagram and on Twitter, 1953 Bowman Color. You can always find that information located in the description below. We have a fun episode tonight that we'll get to in just a second. I just want to acknowledge the chat here. We got Stuke. Hello, Stuke. Rocket Rick is here. Hello. Peter B is here. Orlando is here. A lot of people saying hello. William is here. Hello from the Rising Sun. Mitchell is here. Yes, the St. Louis Browns. Mike, Sports History Collector's here. Don is here. We can start drinking. Don is here. Baseball Time Traveler. Did you make a video, Baseball Time Traveler? That's the big question of the night. The Card Story. Reese is here. Brian is here. And he's very excited. So you know what? Brian's excited, so we should start. We're going to have a conversation about the cards of this set. This, of course, is 1955 Bowman. This is Minnie Minoso, who is really excited about this bunt that he's about to do. And he's doing it on a beautiful 1950s television screen. This is the only 55 Bowman card that I have. But the gentleman that is waiting in the wings has all of them, I think. And here he is, Kurt. You have all of them, right?
I do. I have every card in the set.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Kurt, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, it's great to be here after way too many text messages over the last probably year or so, Alex. So
yeah,
excited to be here.
How did that? Was it through the live stream that we connected, or was it somewhere else?
Yeah, I think it was through the live stream we connected, and your set build story was really exciting to me. I came back to the hobby in 2020, like a lot of people, after leaving it for 25 years or so, and never thought about set building or building a full vintage set until I ran across your channel. So yeah.
Right. Oh, and you know Brian. You and Brian have connected.
Brian and I have connected. We live about a mile apart in North Brooklyn, here in New York City. And I think we actually connected via, maybe it was your channel or maybe I was watching one of his videos, but I think I may have commented on his video that I was in Brooklyn as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. So we've already got some 55 Bowman love, which is great. So, I mean, before we get into it, Kurt, you collect other cards. Can you give us a sense of like where's your collecting focus been since you got back into it?
Sure. Yeah, it's really kind of funny. I guess collecting is sort of anathema to my personality. I'm really a minimalist and don't really have many things. And my partner and I, she and I are both, we have very, very few items. Brian's probably laughing because he's been in my apartment, and our space is very, very minimal in terms of possessions. But I've kind of gone through a few iterations. I'm a big Detroit Tigers fan. I grew up in Michigan and collected the 68 Tigers and 84 Tigers. And I've never really seen a World Series in my life. I was 2 when the Tigers won in 84. So I can say I've lived through a World Series, but never really seen one.
Right.
But yeah, collecting has sort of gone from collect all the big cards from the 80s and 90s when I was a kid to do I really want those junk wax cards? And that answer has turned out to be no. So I've gotten rid of a bunch of cards I had as a kid and kind of picked back up in 2020, to now finding a lot more joy and value in the full vintage set builds versus singles. But I do collect PC. I do collect Charlie Gehringer.
Okay.
So I have some pretty sweet Gehringer cards that actually Brian has helped me find a lot of them. And I can show some of those later. But yeah. PC really just vintage set kind of focus, as well as single Gehringer cards.
Okay. So maybe the elephant in the room is, what specifically prompted you to go after this set in particular?
Yeah, it was really a combination of, again, Alex, your channel turning me on to the idea of, could I build a vintage set? I never really thought of that at all, to sort of the fun that is the division and the divisiveness of the set. People love it or hate it, right? I think I'm definitely in the love camp, but
I would hope so.
Yeah. I don't hold on to it just out of spite. I'm not Costanza, or Larry David, I guess. But
right.
I think, initially your channel, and then, sort of the design of the set being a timestamp, combined with really the affordability of the set and what I was seeing online for even like pretty large lots. That's kind of how I got into it. But overall, really, it's the time period, right? It's that coming off that 49-53 Yankees run. It's the year after the Mays catch. It's going into spring training, which turned into the 55 Dodgers, right? So it's all that. And I live in New York. I love New York. We're lockstep with how much we love that time period for New York City baseball.
Yeah.
And I think the value of the second year, not the monetary value, but the second year checklist is pretty incredible. Right, you have K-Line, you have Banks, you have Aaron, and you also have what Topps can't give you in 55 is the mantle.
Yeah.
Right. So and I actually think some of the flack for the set is sort of hilarious and doesn't make much sense.
Okay, so let's hear it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the kind of like the statements of 55 Bowman, people don't like it because it's horizontal. Doesn't make too much sense because of 55 and 56 Topps also being horizontal.
Right. Fair enough.
And the television timestamp to me is kind of funny too. If you look at the 66, 67 Topps hockey set, which is like iconic, no one really seems to complain too much about that set, in large part because there's Bobby Orr's rookie card in it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if there was a 55, Koufax or a Killebrew or a Clemente, we wouldn't be having this conversation, I don't think.
Sure.
So yeah, I think the set's great. The design may not be for everybody, but that's part of the fun of the whole build itself.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So let's get into a little bit of the minutia. Do you remember roughly how long it took you to complete it?
Yeah. I actually looked it up today. It was sort of a whirling dervish it was very, very quick. And I put it together. I looked at it from, hey, I want to do something in the baseball off season in the winter and see if I could, build a chunk of it, and I actually completed it over the winter. So it was only about 5 months.
That's great.
And the set that I built is, from good to excellent, in terms of overall condition. So it's not, the 1x1 PSA or SGC kind of graded set. Some of them are in rough shape. Some of them are beautiful cards. And I was looking at it from a value perspective, just didn't want to spend too much, but I did it very quickly. Some online buying, as well as I even bought a bunch of stuff on ComC. I had a big credit there. Brian sold me some. I think he sold me the Kiner, and threw in a bunch of commons, which was very, very generous of him. But I did it very quickly, and one of the things I would do going forward and did again was kind of slow down a bit and enjoy the process a lot more.
Yeah.
Not just, shove each card into a card saver and put them in a box, but really look at the card, look into the player's history, look into the backstory, which I've been doing since I've kind of completed the set.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I did the same with the 53, and it really made it an experience. It's, like, yeah, you built the set, that's great, but it's also just not just accumulating the cards, but appreciating each one as you get them in.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
couple comments I want to highlight here. Dan here mentions that the umpire cards are kind of ridiculous. I'm curious because that's one of the unique
Yeah.
features of the set. What are your thoughts on the umpire cards?
It's funny. Brian and I were talking about this recently, or maybe I might have texted him this. I feel like it gives an interesting layer to the set that you don't see. There are a couple of umpire cards in 39 and 40 play ball.
Yeah.
Like I think there's two or one in each set. I actually I think it gives a nice, ridiculous. I could almost agree with that statement, but I think it's really colorful and fun. And there's 31 umpire cards in the set. They are all in the high series, including number 226, which is the first high series card.
I don't know that I realized that there were that many umpire cards in the
set.
set.
Yeah, there's a ton of them, and they're actually fairly expensive, in part because they're high number, and some of the hypothesis of that is kids didn't want to throw them away, right? They got them in a pack, like, ugh, umpire card. It'd be like getting a checklist or right?
Yeah.
or like the send away card that you never actually got the item for. But I kind of dig them. I think they give a nice, kind of a deeper look into the season.
Yes.
And I have a whole there is, and I pulled a bunch of information from this amazing blog post from Saber that I will I'll kind of ping from a little bit later in terms of cards I think that have an interesting story, because
Cool.
so many of the umpires in that set were on the field in some of the most famous plays or moments of baseball history.
Right.
And some are not. Some of the backs are just really funny. Like one of the umpires was born and raised in Chicago and still lives there and quote owns a flower shop. That's
Perfect.
awesome. Yeah.
That's about
Where was that? Was that on the north side? Was that on the west side? Was that somewhere in the South Loop? Where was that? I want to know.
Right. And then people come by the flower shop and like complain about a call.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. There's one story on that on there where it wasn't on the card. It was in that blog post of one of the umpires goes back home in the off season, and it may have been the steal of home from wouldn't have been the steal of home of 55, but it was like a big play in a World Series. Mm-hmm. And the person came up to him out of the blue, in the train station or something, and just said, "You blew that call. I was 10 feet away." Wow. And he said, how were you 10 feet away? The closest stand was 50 feet away. And the guy said, "I was 10 feet from my TV." Right?
Oh my God. That's great. Yeah. I feel like if I were a kid, the umpire card would be like vegetables, be like, no, thanks. Mm-hmm. But now looking at it the way we are, I definitely think the umpire cards are fascinating. Yeah. Here's another question from the chat. Which is your wood grain preference?
That's a good question. I like I guess I like the darker wood grain. It's 1 through 62, I believe, are the light grain. Mm-hmm. And I can't find, and maybe someone here knows, I can't find documentation of what the change was. Was it a cartridge getting low or something, or how the sheet run, right, in terms of what the color selection was? But I think I slightly prefer the darker version.
Right. Okay. So I'm sure everybody's waiting. So let's get into it. So the first prompt that I gave Kurt was to show 5 common cards from the set that are some of your favorites, either because of the look of the card or the story behind the card.
Sure. I'll lead off with one I think the whole channel loves, which is the Eddie Waitkiss.
There we go.
Right.
We haven't talked about Eddie Waitkiss in a while, so you're making up for that.
Yeah, I mean the back is the story of the natural, right? Which one of the reasons I do love the set too is the back prompts on some of the cards. What advice do you have for young ball players? But also my biggest thrill in baseball. And if you want, I can read the back of the Waitkiss, which is great.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
My biggest thrill in baseball, which really is not a baseball thrill. It's sort of like, I'm glad you lived through this. In 1949, I was shot by a deranged girl. After I was released from the hospital, I was sent to Florida by the Phillies to see if I might recover enough to resume baseball. The schedule laid out for me was a nightmare. I was in a bad nervous condition, and I grew more depressed each day. Then I met a girl who knew a lot about human nature, who had faith in me. I went on to a good season, and the newspapers commended me for the comeback of the year. In parentheses at the end, the girl who inspired me so much is now my wife.
Hey, that'd make a great plot for a film.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. So that's number one, and number two is card number 7, the Gene Baker.
Okay.
And in part because it just the shot of him, but the bandage over the eye is just spectacular.
Wow.
Right.
I don't think I've ever seen that card before or noticed it, so I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, it's number 7, Gene Baker, Gene, and he played for the Cubs and was a second baseman. And it reminds me of, there's no variation of this card, but there is the variation of the 73 Topps K-line, where Topps airbrushed out the bandage, and the non-airbrushed version is very, very rare and gets pricey. I do not own one of those.
Baker also looks like he's got a black eye.
Yeah. So what happened? Was it a north side get rowdy or something?
Does not look happy either.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could have been in Philadelphia too, because my understanding is all the photos were from Philadelphia.
Okay.
So number 3 on that, I actually have 6, so I'm going to cheat a little bit.
Go for it.
But number 3 is the Virgil Trucks, mostly because of the back, which I will read one more back on this. And the prompt is the funniest incident in a game. And it was my first year in the big leagues. I was pitching against the Red Sox. The first hitter was Bobby Doerr. He doubled on the first pitch. The next hitter did the same, and the next one tripled again on the first pitch. Ted Williams came to the plate. He hit the first pitch, 2 for a home run. Manager Del Baker came to the mound and asked Bob Swift, my catcher, "Doesn't Virgil have it today?" With Swift answered, "How do I know? I haven't caught one yet."
That's great.
So another thing that's really incredible about the set is the number of times, both with stories or for the best, kind of like the best hitter or best pitcher in baseball stories, players who are not in the set are mentioned a lot, namely Musial and Williams, because everyone's like, those are the best hitters.
Right.
So I find that kind of amazing that those two are named so frequently.
Mm-hmm.
And there's obviously no card in the set.
Yeah, right.
No one
in there.
Yeah, so it's just amazing not allowed to be in the set.
Yeah.
The Don Zimmer number 65 is great.
Oh yeah.
This is Zimmer's rookie, if I'm not mistaken. The Brooklyn, the hat, everything. It's just great.
Yeah, great colors.
Yeah, just a really cool card. And then 2 more here that are
putting that one in right now.
Yeah, really good surprising cards. Number 115 is Roger Bowman. And he didn't have a 55 Topps card, but I was hoping he did. But I just like that card. And of course, the last name is perfect for this.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one's good. And then this should come in as no surprise either. My final common card I think is amazing is the number 300 Tommy Byrne. Mine's in rough shape.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, the pre-game here, the scene, the batting, rolling out the batting cage, the glove on the ground, the left-hand follow-through. But of course, the big thing is that mantle in the background. We think it is. Mm-hmm. That card is just so cool, and it's a high number.
Like, even if it isn't mantle, it's a cool card. But the fact that it could be, obviously, lifts it up.
Yeah. So it's very, very cool. I think.
Yeah. Mookie says, think it's fascinating that Bowman asked these guys to write the backs of their cards. I'm not sure I've seen that collaboration before. I think it's a great idea because, lots of the cards are kind of drab otherwise. And so like giving them a prompt makes the back of the card probably far more entertaining than it would have been if it's just like, yeah, he was in AA for a few years and then came back up and then went back down and, the end. So I think the backs of the cards are a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of the backs are they do kind of show that kind of almost like childhood like joy for the game still.
Yeah.
Which is pretty magical. Like, my biggest thrill in baseball, it could be some player who played 2 seasons, but they still remember coming out opening day and, childhood dream fulfilled, et cetera. So that's pretty special.
Right. Okay. So let's go for the big guns, some Hall of Famers. So I asked for 3, but if you've got more than 3, I tried to make it hard, but you can cheat.
Actually, this is more, again, the story on the back that makes this card such a home run for me, pun intended, I guess, but is number 1 Hoyt Wilhelm.
Great.
Because the back, his biggest thrill in baseball, and I learned this from the card. One is number 1, which is cool, but the back says, I think my biggest thrill was hitting a home run the first time I was at bat in the major leagues. And it happened in the Polo Grounds against the then Boston Braves in '52. It was also my first win as a pitcher. But, I mean, Wilhelm saying that his biggest thrill in baseball was his first at bat was a home run.
Yeah, right.
In the Polo Grounds?
Right.
That's impossible. Like that another movie, right? So the 55 Bowman set's the movie set, I guess. So maybe it was kind of like meant to be in some way.
I have to look that up. And
yeah, is it true? It was wow. It was Wilhelm's only career home run. Yeah. Actually, another thing I should have mentioned, Alex. My partner and I, we do have like Wi-Fi and a projector for like streaming things now. But I have not had a TV in my life.
Ever?
No, I mean, I guess growing up we did. We didn't have cable though, so not really.
That's
so
these 55 TVs didn't have cable either. So
that's right. That's right. I listened to really bad '90s, late '80s and early '90s Tigers games on radio. That's usually what I did.
Right.
And they were. It was after
to spend time.
It was after Gibson left and won the MVP and everything. And then number 23, K-Line second year card.
Yes.
Mine's I need to upgrade and get like a sharp copy, but you maybe kind of make it out a little bit there. I love this card because it's K-Line, but also that it says All-Star with an arrow pointing at it.
That's great.
Someone penned that in. I need to get like a SGC 5 or something this card, but I had to get this one for like $12 because somebody wrote All-Star with an arrow. You
got to keep that.
Yeah. Someone in like Bay City, Michigan did this, and I love it.
Yeah.
And he's one of them who says his biggest thrill in baseball was playing opening day in Detroit. And it was, and he said he also answered another prompt that's not on the card, who he thinks is the best hitter in baseball is, and he said Ted Williams. I think he's the greatest hitter I've ever seen.
Still true.
So that one's pretty cool. Another
I love the kid logic. It's like, look, I need you to know when you're looking at this card that this guy's an all-star. Like, that cannot be lost on you. So I'm going to write it on there.
yeah, absolutely. And I don't think I ever did that because we had Beckett price guides, but right. So I didn't do that to like Griffey's upper deck card or anything.
Right.
But somebody wanted everyone to know that he was an all-star. And then again, I don't know if it's my favorite Hall of Fame card in the set, but I do love the Bob Feller.
Oh yeah, with his grip, yeah.
The four-seam fastball grip, like he's going to throw at 99, even though he's already thrown 230 innings or something, and it's August, right?
Yeah, that's great.
And the other thing I love about this card is the timestamp on the back, and that he does my favorite baseball memories part on the back, which he says was his my biggest thrill in baseball was the no-hit game I pitched against the Yankees in '46. We won 1-0. That was also the most exciting game I played in. The greatest fielding play I've ever seen was a catch by Larry Doby in '54. Mm-hmm. But then he says this, which is incredible, and again, it gives you that idea that these, in 55, Feller would have been almost 40 years old. So he says, my childhood heroes were Walter Johnson and Rogers Hornsby.
Wow.
So that is awesome.
Yeah.
And he says that on the back.
When the connections are made so clearly that way, generationally, that's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. And
Um,
I'd be remiss not to at least show the mantle and the Aaron and the Maze if I can.
Go for it.
And I actually bought, and Brian knows this because we're buddies, and I like the sub cards to see what they'll get. Sometimes you get burned and you get an authentic back, right? So there's the authentic,
Mm-hmm.
kind of banged up Aaron.
What's your feelings on, I mean, that card aside, just authentic in general?
This one says men's size, not met, so I don't know. It doesn't say trimming or anything. I guess I don't really have a strong opinion on it. And I'm not married to, I'm not a PSA basher or anything.
Okay.
I kind of like the slab and I like getting the cards back quickly. I'm not looking to flip them or anything. So, I don't really have a strong opinion on the grading authentic or one or whatever that is.
But I mean, just in terms of, because some people are very much going to avoid authentic, but others are like, look, as long as I know it's a legit card, I'm fine. I don't really care.
Yeah. I would love a number grade, I guess, but if the card presents well, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
Makes
sense.
And then the two cards I did buy raw that did get letter grades was this pretty nice 3 Maze.
Great.
And the final.
I really feel like the Maze and the Aaron go nicely together.
Yeah, they're both super young. They're doing the same pose but in a different position. And they're just it's just baseball immortality, right? It's
yes.
They're so young and talented and have so much ahead of them. And then so did this guy, who at the time I bought the card was another Brian Roth nudge, like, hey, this card looks pretty good, and it was in an auction somewhere in Boston. And I went to bed and didn't know not knowing if I'd gotten it, but it was the most I ever, still is, I think, the most I've ever spent on a card. And it was raw and it terrified me. But Brian said it was a legit auction house, so I believed him, and it came back nice.
Wonderful.
So,
yeah,
that's a cool card. Yeah, and living here and for so long now, almost 20 years, but being from Michigan originally, I'm still a Tigers fan through and through, but I'm not. It's almost like PSA and SGC. I'm not a hater of the Yankees or the Mets.
Okay.
Yeah. I enjoy going to both stadiums. Love going to both of them, and actually, I think New York's a lot more fun when either or both of them are playing well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't stand the Mets, but when I was there, I was so glad to get to go to games and get heckled by Mets fans, and it makes it way more fun.
Totally.
All right, I got a couple more questions for Kurt, but if anybody has any questions for Kurt, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll get to those questions as well. So, we're not done looking at cards yet. Show us a handful of cards that you think are underrated in general, whether they are Hall of Fame or commons. This is really just an opportunity for you to show more cards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're just totally underrated. And again, I just love the bunt cards from the 50s. You already showed the Minoso.
Yes.
Okay. Really nice version of that.
Again, yes.
Yeah, just so cool. And I also love the back of the front of that card because it looks like a couple people are there for super early batting practice or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know what else is kind of easy I think it's. I'm kind of speculating here, but I've noticed that in this set, the backgrounds in terms of color get a treatment where they just sort of make everything one color. So like you can tell in the Minoso card, basically the background is sort of this aqua color, and like that's it. And that's just like a time saving thing. But I also think it just looks cool.
You're telling me that the light wasn't that garish in Philadelphia?
No, I mean, sometimes, but
I'm also sort of a on the sly sort of Philly supporter. I do like that city, and I like their current team quite a bit.
Okay, well that's good to know, because now I'll just like barrage you with texts next year.
And I hope no West Coast fan gets too upset with me, but I'd love to see Ohtani end up on the East Coast. I mean, so selfishly. Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't be upset about that myself. Yeah.
I'm waiting for the comments to come flooding in now.
See the numbers start dripping.
Yeah. And then 2 more cards in terms of Hall of Famers I think are underrated in the set. The Reese is just perfectly Pee Wee Reese.
Yeah.
Like he looks like he's 17 years old in some ways there. Like he's still having a blast, and it's not early in his career by any means. I just love that card.
Yeah, great
and
one.
The Dodger away uniform, just awesome. And then actually the final card that I purchased for the set, I looked it up, it was March 23rd this year, was high number, kind of a difficult, sneaky difficult card because of high number in second year, but very young, just gorgeous Banks.
Yes.
Yeah, mine has a little bit of paper loss on the bottom there, but it is a difficult card. But I actually prefer this much more than the 55 tops. 55 tops, I think he looks more hopeful here, almost like wistful or like excited for the future or something. I'm obviously embellishing and editorializing, but I just love this look on his face.
You're starting to get some comments about Ohtani. And where's the Don Mossy rookie? That's the biggest question, I guess.
I was going to, but it was too easy.
Right.
Is that his rookie?
Oh man, you're really trying to upset Scott.
Yeah, and I actually did pull out some. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 6 of the umpire cards, which all have a nice little story on them. I think.
Okay, yeah, let's go into it. Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. The first one is W.J. McKinley, number 226. I only pulled this because it is the first card in the high series.
Mm-hmm.
But there is McKinley. And I did like what the Sabre article said. This was the first and only close-up they had on television.
Wow.
Any of the umpires ever had. So a little backhanded comment from the writer there. But number 265, and again, this is all from Sabre, if from the research article. If these things are not true, blame Sabre. But number 265, Albert J. Barlick. The Sabre article said that he was the first base umpire for Jackie's debut.
Oh wow, great!
So super rad.
Yeah.
Number 286 is Frank Secori. He's got a cool Banks dig here. The article said that he was the plate umpire for Ernie Banks' first and 500th home runs. So pretty cool. And what's really also kind of funny about the umpire cards, many of them list the ancestry of the umpire.
Huh.
Like Irish descent, Italian descent. It's like a pretty interesting little tidbit that they added to the back.
Of just the umpire cards?
Yeah, it's not everyone. It's most of them.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe they ran out of things to say. I don't know about the umpires. But number 3, I pulled the wrong one. This is 317. No, 317 is actually pretty awesome too. 317 is last name Summers, maybe William R. Summers. Mm-hmm. Sabre says that he was the one who called Jackie safe in 55.
Oh, nice.
So,
which people are still talking about.
And if you saw the Yogi doc,
I still haven't seen that.
I guess that was one you'll see in the doc, but I guess that was a pretty easy way to get him riled up, even to much later in his life. Yeah. So I recommend that doc. It was pretty well done.
I keep hearing good things. Yeah.
Yeah. And my former boss actually lives in Montclair, New Jersey, and she confirmed that there is a pinstripe road sign where Yogi lived.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. This one's pretty well known. Number 315, Cal Hubbard, is allegedly the only member of the Pro Football and Pro Baseball Hall of Fame, both, and was voted the greatest tackle of all time in 1969 by the Hall of Fame committee when he got inducted. I think he was with the Packers. And the final one, number 307, is plate umpire for the 56 World Series, Larson, perfect game. Babe Pinelli. So again, you can see some of these are definitely in the low good category for condition, but they're, to me, they're solid enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Just occurred to me that, I mean, I know why they didn't, because it probably wouldn't have been worth the effort, but it would have been kind of fun had they done the umpire cards with poses, like calling guys out or getting into fights, or behind home plate or something.
Yeah, like arguing with. Yeah, they should have like an arguing with Yogi card or something.
Yeah.
Or with Campanella. There was another one in the I didn't pull it, but there was another little tidbit in the Sabre article that one of the umpires was buried with his ball and strike counter set to a full count.
That's great.
And I guess that same umpire, and I should have written this down, but the same umpire does have a memoir titled 3 and 2 or full count.
Nice.
So pretty amazing. I love the set, and I will say that it prompted me to. I had so much fun doing it. The most fun I've had since I got back into the hobby. It prompted me to quickly then build the 54 set, which I just sort of finished.
Right. So we might do this again.
What's that?
So we might do this again if I can get you to do it again.
I have to. I still have to complete it. I guess, because I used the quotation marks because of the lack of the short print Williams.
Right.
Which someone in Brooklyn, a mile away, would absolutely argue the set's nowhere near complete without that.
Yeah, I have to say, I agree. Now, I'm saying that not being the person that needs to do that, but
hey, and Jimmy Pearsall's number 66 as well, and it was $5.
Right, big difference. Here's another question, Mitchell, who's also a set builder. Are you planning to start another vintage set, or have you started one?
Yeah, Mitchell. I did. I spent a lot more time with the 54 set, a whole 8 months completing it. The 54 set is in much better VGDEX condition, and just completed, minus the Williams, just completed the 54 actually with a Philly card show purchase with an assist from Brian Roth. What day was that? I think it was yesterday. So I don't have that card in hand yet, but I will soon. And it was the mantle.
Okay.
Yep. So that one I sat on for a little while. I wanted a centered copy that had decent centering, but also had sharpish corners, if not sharp.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little more picky about that one. But yeah, I don't know what's next, which I have a zillion ideas. I love the design of vintage hockey cards too, but don't know the sport well enough to maybe put that kind of resources into it.
Sure.
And there's also there's a similar sort of fight between Topps and another company. Then I don't know if it was as brutal as Bowman and Topps, but Parkhurst was the Canadian leading card sets, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's many more people out there who are a lot more experienced and have a lot more information than I do. But I think those cards are beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the 41 play ball, the Diamond Stars, the whole 48 to 55 Bowman run I love. So yeah.
Mitchell's building the Diamond Star set, so you should definitely check out that. Awesome. Orlando's asking, what's the toughest card you had to get from the 55 set?
I really had a tough time getting that Banks.
Mm-hmm.
Not in terms of just buying one. You can buy a Banks, but one that was decent and not $400 for Benton half. That one was difficult. And then the Nestor Shylock umpire card was very difficult to come by a decent copy of that for a reasonable price.
Right. Baseball Time Traveler asks, are you planning to work on any 60s sets?
That's a good question. I do love the that time period of really 50 to 55, 56, 57 maybe. 60 sets. I mean, they of course then they start to grow in terms of the length of them.
Yeah.
Right. Alex, you kind of got me into this 61 set.
Did I?
How
did I do that?
Isn't that the one with the very, very simple minimal design?
Oh yeah, the Koufax. Yeah.
Yeah, those are kind of growing on me a bit, but a full 60 set, I don't know. I kind of love the 68 too. I know that's not a similar thing to the 55 Bowman. Some people hate it, but I some of the 60s stuff, really any of the top stuff, they get a little bit lazier with the photography. 65s we're using 68 sometimes, etc. 65 is cool, but that's a long set, as Dom well knows.
Right.
Yeah, and then of course the high number issues, those can get more and more expensive as you get deeper into the set. So I never say no, but I'll make my focus mostly on the 50s.
Yeah, you've got to have the love to stick with it.
Yeah,
And if the set's huge, that's tricky.
yeah.
And Mitchell's saying go for the 67 set.
I like the 67, 68, and 69, I think, a lot too. I mean, 69 is kind of clean and classic looking.
Here's the question of the hour. Does Kurt have a channel? He's a great storyteller, so I hope he does. Oh, that sounds like a little bit of a nudge.
Thanks, Nina. I do not. This is my YouTube debut. And yeah, I don't know if I will ever start my own channel. There's so much more amazing content out there, including Nina's channel, which we need an update on that 52 set, since I was never on Twitter either, but I always lurked.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like that on YouTube now. No, I don't have a channel. I don't know if I will ever do that. Maybe I will. Maybe I'm lying to myself, but it's fun to connect with actual people in the hobby for sure.
Right. Well, if you
Yeah,
don't have a
and of
channel,
course the 52 set build that Nina's working on. Yeah, that's one that's really enticing.
yeah, absolutely. Beautiful cards, and she does a great job with those videos. If you don't have a channel, we'll just badger you to do live streams. Next best thing. William asks, do you have a signed baseball with Gehringer and Greenberg on it, since you're a friend of Brian's?
No, I actually do not have a signed baseball of either of them. I can show a pretty cool Gehringer auto though, if you want to see one.
Oh, please, yeah, let's see it.
I got this year as well, and it's pretty special.
Oh wow!
This is the long. Yeah, this was another Brian. Like, hey, you have to buy this. I found this. You have to get this.
That's beautiful.
And actually, Brian was gracious enough to. I was too nervous to mail this to PSA, but I wanted the card and graded as well as the auto.
Right.
And so Brian took this to the National for me, which was very nice of him.
Fantastic.
But yeah, that's
beautiful
my
signature too.
That's probably my quote unquote biggest card. Definitely my coolest card.
Right.
That I own.
I just got an autographed baseball a few weeks ago for Zach Wheeler.
Awesome.
And I hadn't. I mean, I kind of collect autographed baseballs on and off, and I just sort of thought, you know what, Zach Wheeler for me is a member of the Phillies that I want to remember, long term. So I added him to the collection, and I'm glad I have it. But as I'm looking at the baseball, I'm thinking, man, why does everybody's signature suck now? Like Gehringer's signature is a work of art, and Hank Greenberg's signature, like those guys had such beautiful signatures. And nowadays the players, I think I'm done. Honestly, I think I'm done collecting modern autographs. They're just so uninspiring.
I inherited a number of autographed baseballs. My grandfather passed away in 2020, and that was kind of how I got back into it. We collected. I collected, and he got excited by it when I was a kid, right? Which was very special. And he got into it, and he would have, and when I inherited his stuff, his collection anyway, he would have boxes and boxes of top loader cards. Any Hall of Famer or star at the time. So it was like Juan Gonzalez 1991 score was next to a 55 Koufax. No kidding. And I'm like, what the hell? This is amazing.
Yeah.
But some of that was also autographed baseballs. And he was a diehard Tigers fan. So it was like at Kel, K-Line. It was really this, the 50s, 60s, 70s Tigers, and maybe in the 80s, like a Trammell, Whitaker, Kirk Gibson, Morris, all the big names from Detroit. And then he had a few, bigger Hall of Famers. He had Feller. I think my uncle got him a Griffey for Christmas one year, so he had that. But those old autos are so cool.
Yes.
George Kell's autograph is beautiful. K-Line's
Yeah.
is nice. And then you get to, you get to Cecil Fielder, and it's not as, beautiful.
Right.
Actually, his is okay too, but it's not like, it's not, to me.
It just gets
Not George
exponentially
Kell.
worse as time goes on.
Yeah.
We should probably start trying to wrap up. I have a couple more questions for you, Kurt. And this is really about set building in general. So I know just from being in this community for a few years now that there are some collectors that are just pretty much not interested in set building. And there's a lot of, I think, really legitimately good reasons. And we were even talking about this a moment ago with like 60s cards because of, just how many there are in a set. But what would you say for you and from what you've done so far are some of the perks or the fun parts of building a vintage set?
The hunt's fun, right? But I think that I don't know if I know more about baseball history, but now because of these, but you kind of get a deeper appreciation of the full season as opposed to like, the Mantle single or the, the Hall of Fame run or something. That's awesome too, right?
Yeah.
I just feel like there's a little more breadth of getting trying to get the full set. Something as silly as the umpire cards was really fun. And the earlier sets are a little bit smaller. So if one thing I actually kind of would recommend is if you're interested in building a set is to actually physically get your hands on a copy or two of a card from the set and kind of literally feel it out. Cause I was trying to figure out what I wanted to, after I built the 55, I was like, what do I want to do next? And I do love the hockey sets, but I don't think I'm going to do that. A monster set that I also love basketball. I love the 61, 62 Flair set, but that's probably not going to happen just with the star power that's in that set. But when I was looking at baseball, I was like, do I do a 51 Redbacks? That's a fun set.
Sure.
68 Topps Game is fun, or 69, I forget which year. Like some of those little subsets are fun, but when I actually got them in hand, I was like, I kind of feel like I want to do the previous year Bowman now instead. Okay. So I'd say, literally get your hands on a card or two from a set. But if you don't want to set build, you don't have to. But I think there is a little bit deeper dive into the snapshot of said season with the full set.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just recently, I was listening to some old radio calls from games from the 50s, and I was looking for sound bites and stuff, and found myself just listening to the game. I was like, I know that guy. I know that guy. I know that guy. And I realized that listening to it now, I have so much more of a connection to it. And it's so much more meaningful than it was before. It was like, okay, this is from the past and I can appreciate it from a distance. But now it's like there's much more of an intimacy to it, which
Alex, you and I never saw, Gehringer play. We never saw, Banks play. Right. But there is this connection to it. And I think I was trying to think about why vintage speaks to me so much more than anything modern. And I think I have one Ohtani card I just held on to. And I think it's just the names that are in the lore that we've kind of gone through tonight. They're in Cooperstown, but we heard them our whole lives, and they were bigger than life and they're larger than life to us. So it's almost like, I don't have a very good reason of why that speaks to me so much better. It's much more so than the current players who admittedly the game might be, richer now in many ways. Oh, right. Yeah.
But the world is different.
The world's very different, and the game is probably better for it overall, but it's, it's those cards from this time period and before are just so cool to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love, Dan throws this in here. I did see Banks play, which is awesome.
Awesome. Yeah.
You already kind of mentioned this, but maybe from like a logistics perspective, whether it's like looking for cards or condition or pricing, any advice to somebody in terms of like how to approach building a set?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess the question you have to answer is what condition are you okay with, and what's important to you? Is it centered copies that can be bent in half, or is it a sharp off? Is it sharp and off center? Is that more important? I think is a big question.
Yeah.
And sourcing. I mean, I'm just guilty of being lazy a bit and popping on eBay and making sure I get a decent copy for a decent price.
Yeah.
But building the community here is a big step of it. Like I would never have been able to build some of the specific cards, especially some of the bigger cards, without some help. Brian hooked me up. I've been in touch with other collectors too, and kind of not really trading, but getting a heads up on certain things that might be available. Because I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on Instagram, like those things. And social media really beyond like LinkedIn professionally, but I guess understanding what kind of condition you're interested in and kind of staying within your means price point wise is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So, yeah. I mean, I don't know what's next. If I did a smaller set, Alex, like in terms of fewer number of cards, like the 41 play ball that I'm starting to think about more and more, that would be one I would want to spend a lot more time building and be more specific and picky about what I'm getting.
Sure.
And knowing that the DiMaggio and Williams are stupidly expensive, and rightfully so. And know I'm gonna have to get a card that's in maybe the good range for those two, and maybe splurge a little bit more on the Geringers and the Melots and stuff.
Right. And knowing that ahead of time is like, that's kind of the other nice thing is having a little control over the experience that you're having building the set, like whether or not you want to go through it quickly or slow it down and what condition and all that sort of thing can change the experience. And that way every set build isn't, I mean, I don't know, because I've only ever built one, but if I did another one, I would try to change it up a bit just to have a different experience. And
Alex, when you were building yours, correct me if I'm wrong here, you were looking for PSA already everything was already graded?
Everything was already graded, and I was able to do that up until the last maybe 3 cards. I had to get raw because I just could not find them in the condition that I wanted. I would not do that now, but at the time that worked somehow.
Yeah. I got in back into it after the boom, and it's still been fun, but I probably could have bought a full set less than I paid overall, kind of one by one, but that'd been a lot less fun.
Right. Absolutely.
It's more of a commodity.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I think we probably should start wrapping this up. I want to make sure everybody knows, I'm sure you guys already do, but make sure you head over to the 4 Collectors channel. Orlando and Dom are going to be on there with a couple other guys talking about a wide range of cards. So make sure you head over to 4 Collectors. And if you enjoyed this live stream, guys, give it a thumbs up. Appreciate it. And Kurt, thank you so much for your time. This was a lot of fun. I hope we can do this again. You've got some other sets, so we've got other stuff to talk about.
Well, I have to throw it out there and ask, which set should I build next? Is it 41 play ball or 50 Bowman or 53 color, or what is it?
We'll take a poll. I mean, you know what my vote's for, but they're all good candidates. All right, so yeah, you're getting lots of great comments in here. Thanks everybody for the questions in the chat. Really helped spice it up. So that's it for this one, guys. Take care. Have a great weekend. Kurt, thanks again. And
thanks, Alex.
We'll see you next Sunday. Take care, everybody.